we are in discussions with UTA to add a bus route through the community. Kind of just some testing some routes and where a feasible route might be through the city. Going to take some work. We might have to redesign some stuff, but huge option to connect some people to the track station or even over to the front runner station is what we're looking at right now.
Welcome to Herrimanology.
The official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Thursday, September 12th, and we have a brief reprieve from the smoke. We had a whole lot yesterday. We'll have a new wave coming in probably by the time most people are listening to this.
Right. That was awful last night.
And man, that was a lot of smoke.
Yeah. Baseball games canceled. It was crazy.
By the way, Salt Lake County put out some information about just kind of basic tips on staying healthy when there's a lot of smoke like that. Generally, try to avoid activity, especially if you're sensitive to those sorts of air conditions. Try to avoid using outside air if you don't have a great filtration system in your home AC, to kind of use fans indoors, just those sorts of things. So if you want more of that release, you can go to Salt Lake County government's social media or website. They'll have a press release on there. But just some ideas to be safe and healthy during some really nasty air.
Right.
So
crazy.
I'm John LaFollette, Communications Manager for Herriman City, joined today by Mayor Palmer. How are you doing?
Good to be back today.
Yeah.
So
we just got off a little bus ride, actually. There might have been a couple of people who saw a UTA bus driving around town and probably were very confused.
Right.
What was happening? Why was there a bus driving around Herriman?
That was amazing. I think we've talked a little bit about it, that we are in discussions with UTA to add a bus route through the community starting next year. So this was just really kind of a test route we were on with some officials from Riverton City as well. Kind of just some testing some routes and where a feasible route might be through the city. So really that's still where it is. We're still pushing, working with them, hopefully to have a bus route through the city next April. That's kind of the thought right now. It's going to take some work. We might have to redesign some stuff, but I mean, we're excited. We need to get some cars off the roads if we can. So this is could be a huge option to connect some people to the track station or even over to the front runner station is what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so the exact route is very much in flux right now, but like you said, the theory would be to get it from the Daybreak track station to eventually the Draper front runner station and go through parts of Herriman, parts of Riverton to get there. And the cities and the engineering staff and community development staff and the city councils are both working with UTA to hit the hottest spots in both cities and get some more regional connection there.
Right, and I will say we're using data from the VIA, from that, to kind of hit the hot spots, hoping to, kind of reduce some of the VIA. VIA will not go away. This is just hoping, maybe if there's a certain number of users using that same route, we can, we put them on a bus instead, and then VIA can, be more accessible to other people. So yeah, it's a good idea.
So the optimistic timeline, this is by no means finalized, but we're kind of thinking a route tweaking process the next couple of months, and then there'll be a public hearing for all of UTA's routes. They typically change over all their routes every April.
Right.
And so there'll be a public hearing process at some point in the winter. They'll do some last minute finalizing and tweaks. And then they'll start to solidify their routes and then launch them in April. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get a route starting in April. Who knows? Maybe it'll be next April or some other time. But that's kind of what we're hoping right now.
Right. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah. I'm hesitating to announce anything because it's not ready to be announced.
It's not official yet. Yep.
But suffice it to say, action is happening, conversations are happening, and there is planning happening for Herriman's first full-time bus route.
Fantastic. So. Yep. Great.
Last night was a city council meeting. Most of it was a work meeting.
Right.
And by the way, if you're looking for that to be streamed live, sorry, we just had too many technical issues. Because we had the planning commission members involved, we moved it down to the community room, and we have some audio-visual issues in that room. So we recorded it. It's on our YouTube page now, but we did not stream it live last night. So if you're looking for it, sorry. We'll still have live work meetings in the future, but just not last night, which is kind of too bad because there are a lot of interesting things going on. First was a follow-up to I think the item number said it was a brainstorming discussion. So months ago, the city council and city staff were talking about, what issues are facing the city. And you came up with a really long list of the things that cities deal with. And, this was kind of a follow-up to that. What was the progress in that discussion, and what was the I don't want to say end point because it's still going to come back again, but maybe what was the checkpoint at the end of the meeting last night?
So this was really to try to come up with 4 kind of focuses for the council to really, because our job as council is to direct our staff. This is the direction we want to go. So we're trying to create that big picture. Councils are supposed to be big picture, right? Not, we have a city manager. Our form of government allows a city manager to operate the day-to-day that provides the basic services. We want to provide those well. That's a focus, of course. But this is the bigger, like what are our focuses as a council, then down through staff for the next few years. So, really we ended up focusing on, financial stability, kind of the fixing the kind of lack of, not lack of trust, but I don't know how we said it, but with the government, between government and residents, we're trying to bridge that gap more.
It was kind of termed the disconnect between residents and government.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people feel that with varying levels of government across, whether it's a city or a county or a state, federal. I think everyone feels the disconnect maybe between some federal branches and kind of down this local level. So that's something that you're trying to address on this level.
We can at the local level. That's what's great is you can fix that at the local level. And I think all of us as a council have tried to focus on that. We've all been, I think you get involved in city councils because you got involved in an issue usually. So we've all been recently had concerns that got us to the table. And now, so we're just people now, we talk about that a lot. We're just regular residents that none of us are professional politicians. Like most of us don't like politics, honestly, but we're doing this because we want to make the community better. And so we're trying to translate that to the residents that we want to be here to talk. We don't want that disconnect. What can we try to be open and transparent and whatever we can do to help people understand what's going on and how decisions are made. And really, I love that we said all of this is through the lens of how will this affect the residents? Mm-hmm. That's what we kept talking about at the end, which I loved. How does every decision affect the residents? And I think that's how honestly, every level of government should operate like that. But really at this level, it's great. So we had those, and then we had transportation infrastructure, especially in and out of the city. That can be roads, that can be buses that we just talked about, transits, talk about that. Then the last one was just an overarching, vision or goals for the city. We just need to create a vision, like what is Herriman? Where are we headed? What do we want to be in 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah. And part of the tricky thing on that list, there are a lot of things that the city can't totally control, including one that the council picked with the transportation in and out of the city. Our direct influence really ends at our city border.
Right.
And we can't control UDOT or UTA or other cities. It would be easier if we, if we could, but we can't. And there's a lot of red tape and there are a lot of barriers, but I think the council is really determined, and there's already been a lot of progress made to keep establishing relationships, working in relationships with other agencies, and make sure that Herriman's voice is heard at the table.
Right, absolutely.
Another discussion item was, so we've talked about this several times before, kind of in smaller packages, but the development that will eventually come on the south hillside of the city.
Right.
In fact, I think it was kind of termed last night the South Mountain Development Group. Right. I don't remember who named it that, but we could adopt that for this. So if you're listening, or if you've listened to this before, you might be familiar with the Panorama development. We talked about that earlier in the year. The South Hills development, the Rosecrest development. Those are essentially 3 different groups of landowners and land developers. It's a big kind of tangled web of people and property owners involved who want to eventually develop on the hillside.
Right.
Commercial areas, housing, roads, just kind of standard development. And they all have varying levels of entitlements or ways they can legally develop land now.
Right.
And we're not going to get into the weeds of how the mechanics of all that, because we could be here for 3 hours and still not get to the bottom of it.
Yes, we could.
But what was maybe new last night, and what's the outlook for these projects going forward?
Great. So this was really, like you said, there are 3 groups now coming. I say merging all at the same point now. They're all coming together. We've done some approvals with the Wasatch South Hills group. There were some approvals previously from some Rosecrest development still. And then Panorama, we've been discussing with them their entitled properties. And now they're all 3 going to kind of merge. And this was taking us through the steps of what those are going to be to merge those all together. And really, they're going to develop in a cohesive way now. Instead of, it is struggle as a city to develop when you develop 5 acres at a time, because you don't get great development. You don't get great connectivity in roads. You could get, so really this is all going to develop now simultaneously at the same time. They're going to connect roads to each other, bigger roads with boulevards, that connect through the development. It's just going to plan out so much better than traditional development has in the city. So they were just laying out the steps. So there's a lot more discussion to be had on all those. Details weren't finalized last night. So much more discussion, but this was laying out, like, they want to get going right away. And there's some roads that are critical in part of this. Juniper Crest we've talked about. So this is just, the growth is hard. We all know the growth is hard, but entitled stuff is coming. We're trying to make it the best we can, and developing it all together with infrastructure in first is just different and new and will be better. Let's just say that. Ideal, great, not really, right? We know, but better.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of people kind of bristle at the new growth is coming, and it would, in a lot of ways, it would be, some countries work this way, where the government could just say, nope, throw down the hammer, we're blocking. That's not how we work in the U.S.
Right.
There are agreements in place, and even if there weren't agreements in place, there is zoning in place where people could build according to the zoning that property's in. Mm-hmm. And the government at varying levels has a say in how or what gets developed, but you can't just say yes or no, period, end of story.
Right.
That's just not how it works.
Right.
So it can be frustrating to people who are tired of the growth and tired of the traffic, and believe it, we see it too.
Yep.
But that growth is going to come, and this, from my angle, is nice in that under the Panorama group you have, I think it was 14 landowners. Under the Rosecrest group you have a massive amount of land.
Right.
South Hills group has a bunch of landowners under that, and they're all saying, hey, let's package this whole thing kind of as one mega entity, I guess.
Right.
And there's a road that comes through somebody's property here, and on the other developer's property line, it continues.
Right.
And then it works that way across all these 20 some odd properties.
It's a big deal.
So it's enormously complicated, and at its minimum growth, it can be frustrating. But in my opinion, as just some nobody staff member, I feel like this is going to be more efficient and kind of better in the long run to at least work through it this way.
Yep. I mean, if we're going to have the growth, this is the best way to handle it, honestly. Yeah.
So, and one more discussion last night. So if you think Mountain View Corridor, and there's 134th South, if you're driving southbound, you look to your right, and there's this big dirt lot.
Right.
And people were like, what's going to go there? Well, now we have an idea of what is in the works there. So we can't say everything now.
Right.
But what can we say, and what did we learn last night?
This is just the initial presentation from the developer. This is the same developer actually that did the same development people, not the company, they've different company now, but the same development people that did Mountain View Village. Now they're in a different group called Elevate. So this will be a commercial project that will be very similar to Mountain View Village. So you're going to continue along, across Mountain View to a similar, unique, but a lot of the same features that a lot of us love about Mountain View Village with the place, some of the placemaking, the community spaces there. So really, it's going to be a massive, a great commercial opportunity for Herriman. Finally, right?
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. This will be a big deal. Nothing's set in stone, tenants, anything like that. This is just, they're going to name it the Commons at Herriman Town Center. And so, again, this was just first blush. that this is coming. They went through, again, like the other one, they went through the steps that are going to happen with commercial opening by, I think they said,
end of 2026
Yep.
is their goal.
Yep. So that's a big deal. And then, so this could be hopefully some good tenants come, and this will be a game changer for our community, honestly. So we've been sitting on this one for a while, and we're excited. So this first blush, and we're ready to go. We're excited.
Yeah. So it almost feels like an announcement because it's the first time that anybody besides those who have been talking in those initial meetings has heard much about it. It's not really a full announcement because we don't know exactly who's coming in. Nothing's been formalized or signed, but there's a pretty built out vision of what's going to go there, and it's going to be a major commercial area that's badly needed here.
Yep. They'll have more restaurants. I mean, they did say that stuff. There'll be restaurant pads. There'll be, box stores. I mean, so there's going to be some good stuff coming.
Yeah. So stay tuned on that. I can't tell you when we're going to be able to say more. It's not like we're keeping major secrets here. It's just not totally fleshed out yet.
Yep.
But there will be something there at some point. And,
Absolutely.
so there's over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot happening in our city. And lots of businesses coming in, and they're recognizing the Herriman has grown a lot. And now's a great time with so many people living here and traveling through here that you're going to see a lot of businesses come in. And fingers crossed that UTA bus line works out. You're going to see a little bit of transit here, and growth can be painful, but at the same time, there's some excitement attached to it.
That's what we're going to start seeing is the fruits of those. We built the housetops, we built the rooftops. Now we're going to see the fun stuff come, and it's an exciting time to be part of out here. Like you said, there's everybody commercially, like everybody wants to be in Herriman. Like our poor economic development team is busy right now because there's a lot of interest from across the spectrum. You name it, there's interest out there right now. So we're going to get there. I know there's a lot of pushback. We're going to get there. A lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah. Well, that's all for today. Apologize. I was a little bit long-winded, but there's a lot to talk about.
There is good stuff.
So if you missed that meeting and you normally don't care to watch city council meetings, that one you actually might be interested in, especially the second half of it. So go to our YouTube page and watch, and you'll see some of those kind of concept maps and kind of see what's coming down the line.
Absolutely.
So that's all for today. Thank you, Mayor Palmer.
Good to have you. Have a good vacation next week.
We'll do. Oh, yes. There will be no Herrimanology next week.
We're both gone.
Yeah, in fact, you're gone too. So you'll have to sit on this one for 2 weeks. So maybe it's good we went a little bit longer today.
Right. Absolutely. Listen to this over 2 weeks.
Right. So as always, send in your questions. Nobody really takes us up on that, but
right.
We're happy to answer any random questions you have.
Please do. Yes.
So with that, thank you for listening and watching, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.